I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Dog Day afternoon is over. Attica, 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 Attica. Welcome to DDA, Andy. DDA. Has that ever taken off? Are we the first ones to do that? We should totally do that. Dog Day afternoon. DDA.
Should we? Should we?
Yeah. I'm going to try to make
what the world needs.
Yeah. So I don't remember what the gag was last week, but you made a comment that seemed to indicate that I might not like Dog Day Afternoon.
No, I think the comment was that because you were so surprised, like literally every movie of this series that we have been watching, including Night Moves, our member bonus episode, like you've been surprised about all of them, going, I can't believe that I'm actually liking all of these movies. And so I thought, wouldn't it be funny if the one movie that we get to that I know you'd already seen, because you are the first person who showed me this movie, I knew, like I said, wouldn't it be funny if that's the one you're like, 1 star? That movie doesn't hold up at all.
That's good. That's a good bit. That would be funny. I wish I could make good on that bit, because that would be funny, but it is not true. Oh my God. Dog Day Afternoon. Where does this movie live in your psyche, in your heart, in your soul?
I haven't seen Dog Day Afternoon probably as many times as you have, since, like I said, you were the one who actually showed me this movie. And so it's a movie that I've always enjoyed since seeing it. And I mean, Pacino, Cazal, it's like such a strong group of actors delivering on such an interesting story. And it's a bank robbery film, bank robbery gone wrong. Plus we have more humor than you would probably expect in a film like this, and just incredible rich characters. It's a film that, like, I haven't watched a lot in my life, but in general, when I watch it, I'm just pretty amazed by the strength of it. It's just such a strong film. And that's the reason that in the scope of this series, that I had put together, this series where we're looking at films that are celebrating their 50th anniversary this year, and pioneering visions in global cinema, this is the one that I picked that was a US-based film. Not counting Night Moves, which is, our members voted on as one of our member bonus episodes. But so there's a reason that I think that this film stands up as a strong representative of a film with pioneering vision in global cinema.
Well, it's also a film that is truly representative. I mean, it represents the U.S. It also represents the uniqueness, I think, of New York. You might call it unique New York. Yeah. Unique New York. It falls in a really interesting place, for Sidney, Sidney Lumet, between Serpico and Network, and it captures, I think, the sentiment of these New Yorkers, the communities that rally in support of the robbers, and the police who rally against, and the complexity of these very human relationships trying to unravel this knot that they walk themselves into by attempting to rob this bank. I find it really an incredible experience watching this movie. And it's been a long time since I watched it. I love that this excuse exists to put it on in the headset and really just sort of fall in love with it again. 1 star.
Good. I'm glad you fulfilled the joke. So thank you. Well, okay. So, I mean, it's a really interesting film because it's based on a real story that had happened in a few years earlier. And in this particular situation, what's funny is, we have, just as a side note, we have 2 actors who had worked together before, Al Pacino and John Cazale. John Cazale had his incredible run of incredible films that he worked in before he died, 2 of which were the Godfather films that he did with Al Pacino. And interestingly enough, before the real bank robbers actually went into the bank to steal this money, they had just watched The Godfather again, which I think is just a weird little bit of kismet that these two actors end up playing these two criminals. But yeah, we have a story about a man who had been married and then divorced and now was married to a man, and so was gay, and his new husband wanted to have a sex change operation. And so there's this whole element of him wanting to, steal this money to pay for that. Now, it's like in any story that starts with, this is based on a true story. Based is really kind of the operative word. It doesn't mean that it's exactly the true story. And we certainly have changes here, as it sounds like the money that the real person was probably stealing the money for was because he owed money to the mob. And so it's a little bit different.
Interestingly, he owed money to the Godfather. It's
right.
just a circle of life.
Right, exactly. So, but I think that's another element that makes this film stand out so much, is because we have this bank robber who just seems very real. And then we find out that he's gay and he's married to a man who wants to have a sex change operation. And suddenly it's like, oh, there's another layer to this that just happened to be here. And it just makes for that much more of a rich story as we're getting this sense of the story. And Frank Pearson talked about this element. Frank Pearson is the screenwriter, talked about this element of latching on to the character of Sonny as this person who just wanted to fix everybody. And you can really see that play out. And that's kind of the theme of the story. This man who just wants to fix people, right? He wants to fix his husband. He still wants to, fix everything with his wife. He wants to fix everything with the tellers who need to go to the bathroom. Like, he's constantly trying to make things work for people. And I think that's an interesting element to his character that we see that, we don't often see in bank robber types of characters.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the pairing of these two characters, Sal and Sonny, is it becomes one of, I want to call it one of the great pairs of criminals movies, right? Butch and Sundance. And yet they're not great. They're not great. Sal is in a rough state pretty much the entire time. But it does offer some of the great moments, the great exchanges of humanity between these two. When you talk about, how Sal got there, how Sal reminds Sonny, you promised me we'd get away clean. Yet again, to your point, exemplifying Sonny's efforts to fix Sal, right? Like, I'm going to make things right by you. I promise you this will be okay. I'm going to take you on a journey. I just need you to trust me, which is his entire MO. So we're jumping into just a slice of that, but it's what this sort of verite humanism makes Sonny feel so real and grounded because of all of the subtext of the befores and afters, that we get a slice that might be the most important slice and clearly the best slice to demonstrate this kind of character of his life that we get dropped into in this film. The what country do you want to go to, Sal? Wyoming bit. Apparently an improvised line, one of the great scenes of the film. It's heart-wrenching.
That's, I think, those little moments from John Cazale really make his character shine. Like this watch, I always love watching Pacino at work in this film, but on this watch, it was really Cazale that I couldn't get enough of. He's such a quiet character. He feels so lost and just kind of stuck and trying to figure out how to do all of this and just kind of going along with whatever he needs to, but in that panic state, because like, oh my God, everything's going wrong, which like you kind of talked about when, he in his conversations with Sonny, who's trying to, make everything right for him. And that was one of those moments where, okay, let's get them to give us a jet and we'll fly to another country. And when he says Wyoming, I mean, it is hilarious, but also is just like heartbreaking, because this is a person who just doesn't know really kind of the world around him. He's never been on a plane. And so the idea of going somewhere else is just like, Wyoming is as foreign to him as Algeria, And
Yeah.
it's
also Algeria.
Well, it seemed to just pop in his head because it's warmer. But yeah, it does make you wonder.
We're going to Algeria.
Oh man.
The other thing that I think stands out for me on this watch is just how attentive they were to making this feel like we're a part of the heist, right? The look and feel of this thing just puts me in the space of newsreel footage. It puts me in the space of bearing witness, as if I was watching the event as it turned out, as people turned out on the street corners from my apartment in New York City. Like, it just felt like I was a part of it. And I think a lot of that goes to, a lot of handheld choices, a lot of really long lenses shooting across the street through windows. There is a sequence where he's on the phone with Sarandon and they're talking through windows and the camera seems to be from POV, and it's just quick clips that end up being, making me feel so voyeuristic to this crime. And that goes a long way toward making it a cohesive universe, right? We talk about world building. I don't know, it's been a long time since we've maybe used the words world building. This one feels like they are rebuilding the real life world for me, and took me right back there.
Well, I think a lot of that goes to Lumet directing this, who had the smarts to recognize we can't do this on a stage. Like, it's not going to work if we do it on a stage, because there's so much in and out going on. Like, we have to be able to cut. We have to be able to follow someone through the doors. We have to be able to see from inside out the windows to everything going on in the streets. Like, those things we need to make happen. And so they found in New York an actual empty building that they were able to turn into a bank and film, and the whole street. They really kind of ended up kind of controlling that whole thing, which is exactly what they needed, because it really feels like we are on a street just somewhere in New York City where this is actually taking place. Like, there is such authenticity with that real world location shooting that just builds it to something that does have that verisimilitude.
The location they got, it ends up being this tiny hole in the wall neighborhood bank. It feels so intimate to Brooklyn, that why does this little tiny slice of brick exist to serve this just very local population, and these guys are going in to violate it, right? That is the ultimate sort of pain and promise of the story. The fact that Sonny ends up building such an unintentional following, and the fact that going in, to your point about his efforts to fix people, the fact that he goes in and is able to build such sort of camaraderie with the people that he's robbing, is a really fascinating portrayal of Stockholm syndrome, right? Of these bank tellers who, sure, they're scared, but also there are points where they're all hanging around eating pizza that they seem like genuine friends. What a weird turn this movie takes.
That, which really is from the beginning. And yeah, I mean, it's important. We are talking about kind of just like the strength of the cast, but I mean, I think having Penelope Ellen as Shirley, the main teller, who is very protective of her girls, as she says, like, I'm not leaving without my girls. Like, she won't, when the cops say, just come, you're already outside. And she's like, no, I've got to protect my girls. And we have those moments with her where she's very much like kind of in Sunny's face as they're kind of like having these confrontations, even though she's acknowledges that she's scared and everything. But you really feel that she's real, and there is this sense of her as an actual teller in this situation, trying to take care of her girls, as she says. And you also have moments where you get this sense of stardom that these people have, and how starstruck they are in a situation like this, because she's the one who, while she's outside one time, some reporters who somehow got into the floor right above them have the cameras out the window and are talking to her. She goes back inside. She's like, I was just interviewed. Like, she's so excited, and it's so funny. And then later you have Sunny teaching, which one is it? Miriam, how to do the military kick with the gun and twirl and that whole
and hands her
thing.
His gun.
Right. She's literally holding his gun, and it's crazy how familiar and friendly they all become over the course of this, and it's humanizing to see them. Now, they're not necessarily doing that with Sal, and I think the most telling moment of that is when Sylvia decides to have a cigarette, and Sal has this conversation with her. You really shouldn't start. It's, you're ruining your temple. Your body is your temple of God. Like, that conversation is so just telling about Sal's place in all of this. He's not somebody who can just get along with the people and everything. And I think that also speaks to, perhaps, which we'll, I'm sure, talk about, but the relationship that the FBI end up having and their view of things.
Yeah, I think I don't know, tell me what you think, but to me, it reads very much like we're dealing with an FBI that has a sense of disdain for the Brooklyn populace, and that counts against the police, as well as the guys robbing the actual bank. Like, these guys came in, and they're not necessarily pleasant. They're kept at a distance that we don't get with with the local police.
Like Sergeant Moretti.
Yeah. And, they sort of cut through what the whole movie builds, this sort of theme of the movie. We're talking about just spectacle, the media. The robbery is this live action fantasy about attention. And Sonny learns over time to program the street to act on his behalf, right? And he gets big groups coming out to support him, especially when they find out he's gay. And then we lose that in the conflict that exists between the institution of the FBI and Sonny's own sort of individual spotlight that is growing. And that all of that sort of buckles under federal procedure. And it's federal procedure that gets Sal killed ultimately in the end. It's federal procedure that causes them to start playing, tricks to get these guys out and to the airport. And it's only that Sonny is pretty quick-witted that he's able to kind of keep up for most of the movie and get things working out his way, even though we see the airport being stacked with police over the course of the entire film as they're making the call for their jet. It still feels like Sonny and Sal are ahead of the game until the very bitter end.
Well, it definitely felt like they could have actually made it. But again, this plays into the relationship, or not the relationship, but it plays into the personality types of Sonny and Sal. And Sal is incredibly nervous, and he's like kind of, I don't know, this whole thing kind of breaks him in a way. And so by the time they get into the car or to the bus, the limo bus, he feels so out of place that he's doing what the FBI guy says, and Lance Henriksen in like his first feature film as Agent Murphy is driving the bus and keeps telling him, now, Sonny, point your gun up, so if it goes off, it doesn't, or if we hit a bump, you don't accidentally shoot me. And he keeps listening to him. And it's like, if he was in it because he was a And I mean, it sounds like Sal had been in prison before, because at the beginning he's like, I can't go back there.
Yeah, I'm
can't
not
go
going
to
back.
prison.
Right.
But obviously he wasn't somebody who was like a hardcore big time criminal, because this whole thing, he's doing, yeah, you're right. Okay. And he's listening to what the FBI guy says, which, had he been in it because he was actually a hardcore burglar or thief, he wouldn't have done that. And it's entirely possible they would have gotten all those people onto the jet and gotten out of the country. It's just that they're inept. They don't understand the bigger machine at work.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly,
and they don't understand
really
how fast Bishop's reflexes are. Like they didn't know he was a synth.
Yeah. All right. Oh my goodness.
It was really fun seeing Lance Henriksen in this role. I had forgotten. I don't think I'd ever made the connection, as many times as I've seen the movie. I don't think I'd ever made the connection that was Lance driving the final stretch.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We also see I'm going to forget his name, but he was in Die Hard 2. He was the remember, like, outside there's the cop who gives John McClane a ticket, and he's like, come on, man, it's Christmas, and he's like, Merry Christmas, and he gives him the ticket, and he finds out that he's actually the cousin or the brother of one of the guys from the first movie. That same actor is like a bit part cop in this.
Oh, how funny. I didn't make that connection. This was the bit at the beginning at Stapleton in Die Hard 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing's at Stapleton. Yes. But yes, we see him later because they go back out to the cars at some point.
Yeah. I did not make that connection either. How funny.
Yeah.
Okay. So the movie, yeah, I think that the last piece I want to make sure we hit on is the fact that this movie does make a 70s effort toward queering the mainstream, right? The fact that Sonny's motive is to help his trans partner afford gender-affirming surgery is an extraordinary watch right now in 2025.
Yeah, it does make me wonder if there are certain people who just are no longer interested in what this movie has to say, because how divided the country is right now. But I think for this particular time now, for 1975, for a film 50 years old, you still listen to like the directors, the screenwriters, the people involved talking about it, and they don't sound nearly as like you still like, okay, I appreciate that they're working to tell the story this way. I appreciate that they went so far as to reach out to like gay rights groups and had them read the script and look at the performance to make sure that it came across okay and that it wasn't a problem. Like there's nothing problematic in any of it. And everybody was very happy with it. But it's still, yeah, you can hear when people talk about it, like Lumet in archival interviews and stuff. It's still like, yeah, I mean, it is 50 years ago, but still by today's standards, it's pretty impressive that we have this story about a trans character and none of it is treated as a joke. None of it is treated like there was a point where in the script, there was the conversation between Sonny and Leon was actually at the door of the bank and there's a kiss involved. And Pacino talked to Pearson, the writer, is just like, I just feel like by doing this, you're kind of almost forcing the issue even more when it's just like, it's a relationship. It's on the rocks. They're not going to be kissing each other because that's just not how it would play. Like if you're breaking up with somebody, you're not kissing each other. And then they came to the idea of just doing it on the phone and everything ended up playing. And so they found a natural way to do it where it's characters and never are we getting caricatures. And they worked really hard to keep it from that.
Right. And I mean, look at how Sarandon plays it. I think more, I don't want to say stereotypically feminized, but he certainly plays it more to one end of a spectrum that we already had gotten in film before. It's muted maybe because of the fact that he was living in an asylum and that he clearly his mental health was in some question. But Pacino's portrayal is exactly what you need to bounce off of that, right? Exactly what you need to remind you that his act is a desperate shot. This whole heist is this desperate shot toward domestic care in a society with no pathways to dignity, right? Like that's what Leon has, is no pathway to dignity. Because of who he is, he has to live in this asylum and have his entire identity questioned. And Pacino is the representation who becomes famous through this act in his own sort of Brooklyn way, becomes famous for essentially for being gay and for acting out in a way that supports that relationship. And I think whatever I almost think the movie succeeds as that representation in spite of whatever Sidney Lumet has ever said about it in archive interviews. Like the movie stands up in spite of the creators, perhaps.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Although I do have one question that I haven't seen discussed much, but I am curious as to how you read it, where we have at the point, like the whole element of Leon coming down at this point, it still is largely Sergeant Moretti, Charles Durning, who's kind of in charge of things, who gets Leon down there. They have a conversation and everything. It's after that point that things switch over to the FBI, right? And we have James Broderick's Agent Sheldon, and that's where the conversations start changing, becoming more serious. He comes in for the little tour, and as he leaves, he kind of whispers to Sonny, "Don't you worry about Sal. We'll take care of Sal."
Yeah.
And you start getting this sense, okay, how is the FBI reading this? Are they simply trying to play him against Sal? Which, I mean, he's just like, hey, I'm not going to stab him in the back or whatever he says. Like, what is the reading there? Are we suddenly reading this because the FBI sees that this is a gay man who's actually holding up the bank? Sal is the one who's hiding behind the pillars with the gun on them and everything. It looks much more serious because he's scared and quiet. Is the FBI's interpretation, the gay guy clearly can't be behind this. It's Sal who's the guy we need to take down. Like, how do you read that? What's the interpretation we're meant to get that the FBI, at that point, after Leon comes, they have the conversation, the FBI focuses in on Sal the rest of the time?
It's interesting because it implies a number of things. The initial read is that FBI goes into the bank, has an exchange with Sal that gives him more concern than any of his exchanges with Sonny, right? That Sonny seems like the cooler head of the two. And because of Sal's sort of quietude, because of his intensity, he feels like a bigger threat than Sonny.
Right.
And by extension, maybe is implying that Sonny was somehow coerced into doing this by Sal in the background. And somehow reads this that Sonny is the one who is potentially in danger, or maybe looking for a way out, or trying to plant that seed. Sonny, it's okay. We got you. We'll take care of Sal. We'll get you out of this. I never connected the homosexuality with that exchange.
And I don't know if we're meant to, or if that's something that is there. I mean, we could see it that way, but it's not brought up. It's not voiced. But is it just because Sonny is somebody that they see and they have a read of him? And again, he's a person who's trying to fix things, and when he's having these conversations, he's also trying to, like, I'm going to release a hostage. He really comes across as a guy who's not intent on hurting people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. It was just an interesting thought in my head that I had this time as I was watching it. Like, I wonder if that was meant to be an element that we're supposed to be thinking about.
Yeah, it's so interesting because at that point, Sal is really hardening. Like we're in the middle of Sal hardening into fatalism, right? He's just done and he's ready. He's getting ready to admit that he'll lose his own life rather than go back to prison, and he'll take all these people with him. While Sonny is evolving into this sort of, as we've said, caretaker fatigue, right? He had this performative bravado and everything's gone the wrong direction. And so he's just trying to make everybody walk out happy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. It's an interesting element to the story for sure.
Well, and the fact that all of this, like the movie is at once a procedural, right? We're watching how how law enforcement of all stripes handles this situation. At some point, it's crazy. I mean, it's comedic, the number of police they have in this location. It's hysterical. It felt like the Blues Brothers, right? Like just ridiculous number of police. What is going on in the rest of the city?
Yeah,
because all the police are at this bank.
Good time to rob another bank.
Right. Yeah, right. So that sort of procedural spine, constantly negotiating, going back and forth, is always disrupted by deeply personal stuff, right? Family arrival, his mother standing in the street. And I think this is one of those things when you look at particularly the cycle of Sidney Lumet's films that we get to watch how systems destroy people, like Network being, I think, the pinnacle of this particular thesis, that individuals will always break under the weight of the institution. And there is no out. There is no exit, no safety. They will always break under the institution. Not a film that necessarily screams goodwill toward our fellow human.
Well, and that's interesting and worth talking about the fact that, going back to the whole thing that you started the show with, like, he's screaming Attica. This is, that was a particular situation that happened at a prison where, as he said, like the police, there's a riot and the police just kind of, shot a bunch of people, and like a lot of people died, leaving just the general populace feeling uncomfortable about kind of the control that the cops had, right? That whole thing led to more focus on prisoner rights and everything. And here we have a situation where it's the little people who are struggling and who are trying to steal some money to get ahead in life. And the cops, like, as you said, the show of force is insane. And we have these people, these little people standing up, trying to show how difficult this system is to get ahead. And I think that's, once he starts screaming that to the crowd early on, you can see why it becomes like this rallying cry, and why the crowd, even after they find out that he's gay, really gets behind him as a representation of fighting the power. And I think that's such an interesting element that we have on top of everything else going on with this film.
I do too. I think it's fascinating the way we are brought in to specifically take a side. And at the same time, like it's easy to joke about the number of police there, but the police themselves are not a joke, right? We're not lampooning law enforcement. Right, we're seeing law enforcement try to do exactly what they can do, and yet the system itself does not have the tools to deal with these kinds of people. Right, the system itself does not know how to deal with people who are motivated by a lack of this kind of lack of dignity. It makes it weirdly sweet. And
Well,
the script, I think, that is really interesting, right? The whole who he's married to bit is played as a rug pull. They say get
it
his
is.
wife down here, and the next person who comes down is Leon. They went to the asylum and got Leon, and that is something that I think comes out of the blue. There was no setup that exists, because the only setup we had before is we meet his ex-wife, but we don't know that she's an ex-wife at that point.
Well, and that happens right after he says, "Get my wife down here." We
Yeah.
cut to the cops showing up at her house. So
At her house.
it really sets it up like that's who we're going to see brought down here, and so it's an interesting surprise, and it definitely plays as a rug pull, which I think is just a smart way to kind of tell the story. Now, it did sound like, I don't know, it sounded like he was still married to her in the context of the film. Like he was married to both of them, although it sounds like, with the priest getting defrocked after the gay marriage, I think that would have been less legal and more just kind of a symbolic marriage that really wouldn't have mattered. So
yeah, I think that's true. I think that's a really good point. My sense is he is still married to this woman who is the mother of his children.
Yeah, right.
But they are probably not together.
Now that's interesting because the real character, John, I don't know how to say his last name, Wadowicz, he saw the film. It took him a while to agree to give them the rights to his story. He was, and mostly it was because they weren't going to give him enough money. He was very clearly always has been focused on money. After I guess he saw the film, he wrote a letter in the New York Times saying that the movie is only about 30% accurate. And the thing that bothered him the most, in fact, he would later go on to sue the filmmakers, is the portrayal of his wife or his ex-wife, because they portrayed her as a plain, overweight woman whose behavior led to his relationship with Eden. That becomes Leon's name once he does actually get his gender surgery. When in fact he'd left her 2 years before when he first met Eden. He also felt that he wanted people to know he never spoke to his mother. The police refused to let him to speak to his wife, Carmen, and insinuated that he had sold out Sal to the police. He said a lot of this was untrue. And although he loved Pacino and Sarandon and their portrayals of them, and so he would actually go on to sue them and ended up losing because all of the characters' names were changed except for Sal's. Sal's name was the only character's name that wasn't changed. And so the judge said, there's nothing in it that is actually connecting it to you or your wife specifically. And so there's no cause and harm.
That's a little bit of a stretch, don't you think? There's nothing connecting this to you.
The legal system. What are you going to do?
I mean, come on.
Yeah. Huh. But because of all the money he got paid for getting this movie made, he was able to give that to Leon, who was able to actually have his successful surgery. And is now living as Elizabeth Eden.
That's really great.
Or was, I should say. I think died in the 80s of complications with AIDS.
Yeah. Oh, what a story.
Yeah.
The movie it serves as an interesting template, right? I mean, we've this whole heist as a human kind of instant pot is an interesting template that we get again in movies like Inside Man, Spike Lee. We get in Reservoir Dogs, obviously in Network. The film, I think, sets the stage for a pivot in how we handle heist films, as we come out of the 70s. And it as such, it's earned a really special place, I think, for me. I think in cinema.
Well, it's definitely interesting in the scope of heist films, right? Because,
Mhm.
in the world of heist films, generally the heist film focuses on the job. Generally, they're successful.
Mhm.
And then it's, are they going to get caught or not? Kind of ends up being the way that heist films go. I feel like a smaller, I guess you could almost say a subgenre within the heist subgenre is the heist film where they actually get stuck at the bank and have to take hostages. Like
Mhm.
that feels like an even smaller element of
Yeah.
heist films where we don't see that as often. But I think it makes it very interesting when it's really the focus is the people at the bank. How do they actually get through all of the stuff that's that they're dealing with the whole hostage? It's maybe more of like a hostage subgenre, right?
Yeah, you're right. Maybe a bank hostage subgenre.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we've narrowed
Very
it down.
specific. Very, very
We've done
specific.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. What else do you want to dig into? You feel like we've captured your
This is one of these films where Lumet decided no film score with it.
Oh yeah.
And I always think that's an interesting decision that filmmakers make, because I mean, I think it could have absolutely worked with a score. Like I don't think I have a particular issue either way when a filmmaker chooses to use a score in their film or chooses to not use a score in their film, as long as it ends up working. And in most cases, I think it works. I don't think I can think of very few examples. I mean, I can think of examples where a score didn't work because they just had music that doesn't play in the way that they did the film. But generally, I don't have a problem the fact that they used score. Likewise, I mean, it's a much smaller pool, but I can't think of many films that didn't use a score where I have an issue.
Okay. I'm trying to understand what that point is. Does that mean you like this one?
No, I do. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
I think it's very successful in the fact that he made this decision, and in the case of this story, it works really well.
Yeah, especially coming off like the only non-diegetic sound we get is Amarina. The Elton John track,
which turns out to be coming from the car radio.
Well, you're right. You're right.
So it is diegetic.
It is diegetic. So we get just that one song, and from then on out, it's just what you hear in the world, and that's another thing that brings us right into sort of the televised documentarian approach that I think makes it so successful. I'm right with you. I really enjoy it. I enjoy being that part of it. I think part of that decision has to be that a score would have felt like a hat on a hat, like overly manipulative, because we're already so invested in the performative success of these guys. Like, let them have their day on screen. We don't need music to tell me, how to feel at this point. They're already too good. And that feels like a very Lumet thing to do in this era.
Although it's funny because, the films that you mentioned, Serpico, Network, they both have scores. He also did Murder on the Orient Express right before this that has a score. Love and Molly, he also did right before this, has a score. So
but interesting choices, though. I mean, think of the biggest moments of Network. They don't have a score. The Ned Beatty speech, no score behind that scene. It's just let the guy perform. And this may be sort of the peak of that, but it's not like he doesn't have a sense for when to use music and when not to.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I just think it shows the sign of a skilled director to understand when you can get away without using a score.
Was this what Sidney Lumet's been making movies a long time. What do you think his peak era was?
Wow. Well, the 60s were pretty good for him. 70s were really good for him. I mean, 80s, let's see. I mean, I'd say still some strong stuff, maybe not as much. I mean, he's also prolific. Like in the 50s, he's got 12 Angry Men and Stage Struck, That Kind of Woman. The 60s, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 films in the 60s. The 70s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, also in the 70s. 80s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, and then from there, he slows down in the 90s and then just 2 in the aughts.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to completely say because there's also a lot I haven't seen.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. What would you say?
I don't know. I mean, part of it feels like he makes great movies across the board. But when I look at this era, sort of the 50s, 60s, 70s, it feels like a filmmaker that exists at the right cultural era to be making the kinds of movies that are aesthetically appropriate for his visual language, right? For his cinematic language. And other movies that he makes are outstanding as we get out of the out of the 70s into the 80s. There are some really great movies. Some of my favorite, Death Trap. Oh my goodness. The Verdict. Fantastic. But I don't know that any of them speak as well to the era in which the films are being made as the films that Lumet made in the 60s and 70s. I'm with you, though. I don't know that I could make that comment, as thoroughly as I want to, because I haven't seen so many of his films. But these formative high art decades were awesome.
I mean, that's, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, in the 60s, he did a lot of films. I've only seen 3 of the films that he directed in the 60s. In the 70s, I've seen 5, so I've seen more, but still, that's 6 I haven't seen. So it's possible that he's just so prolific that he's got lots of peaks and valleys. It's just that his peaks are excellent and they're really stand out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, all the way up to 2007, I thought Before the Devil Knows You're Dead was extraordinary. And as a final stamp on an incredible career, what a film.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a shame that we lost him earlier than we should have. He died in a car crash, right? As I recall. I think that's what
he
happened.
died. Did he die in a car crash? He was 86, so it wasn't like...
Oh, no, it was lymphoma. Which director died in the car crash around that point?
I don't know.
Oh, I bet it was Pacula.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of these directors that we celebrate from the 70s.
Yeah. Anyway, extraordinary.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's such a great film. I absolutely love it. I'm glad to have seen it again. Glad it was on this list. So,
me too.
And it was Alan J. Pacula who died November 19th, 1988, driving on the Long Island Expressway when a driver in front of him hit a metal pipe, causing it to crash through Pacula's windshield and strike him in the head.
Oh my God.
Yep.
That's a Final Destination.
It's awful. It's absolutely awful. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I knew it was one of these 70s, these directors of the great 70s films. So.
That is horrible. All right. Well, I don't care for knowing
horrible. That. Yeah. Well, now you do. Sorry.
Well done.
Yeah. All right. We'll be right back. But first, our credits.
The Next Reel is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson, music by Sandy Pierce, Shahar Haziza. Sandy Pierce, Shahar Haziza, Anthony Vega, Oriel Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and numbers at the-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show at truestory.fm. If your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show. It's the new glasses, man. Everything's too far away, and I don't know where to look to see it in focus. Manfringens.
All right, is it me? It's me, right? No, it's you.
It's me. This is Pete Wright reporting from downtown Cinephilia, where witnesses say a great steal is in progress. The suspect, unfortunately, it's you, walking off with 20% off Letterboxd when you join or renew with the code NEXTREEL. Authorities confirm the haul includes ad-free browsing, advanced stats that actually tell your film life story, your most watched actors, directors, genres, and decades, plus that glorious year-in-review breakdown you'll humble brag about all January. Onlookers report slick watch list tools, including filtering by streaming service, so you can see what's available tonight, and the full suite. The full social suite. Log every film, keep a diary, build and share lists, follow friends, and trade reviews without algorithm drama. We're also hearing whispers of patron perks, early access features, shiny patron badge, even a profile backdrop so you can look as sharp as your takes. Again, the code is NEXTREEL for 20% off when you join or renew. If loving movies is a crime, consider this your perfect getaway. Andy, back to you.
Live.
Okay, that was dumb enough. Wait, I actually should say, Pete, back to you. Andy, we're on sequels and remakes now. Have you seen any of the remakes, or dare I say the sequel, to Dog Day Afternoon?
I have not. So let me go through the list. All right. So starting off 1977, just a few years later, over in Italy, we know the Italians love to rip off these films that are successful and make their own. We had Operazione K, Sparate a Vista, loosely based on Dog Day Afternoon. 1987, over in Hong Kong, we had an action film, Yanman Yinghung, or People's Hero, which was a remake of it. And then a few other interesting elements. Hank Azaria, when he was doing his audition to get a role on The Simpsons, he actually imitated Pacino's voice from this film for his audition. That voice actually would end up being the basis for Moe, one of the many characters that he does in The Simpsons. And then, interestingly, there was an episode of The Simpsons where there was a bank robbery featuring Sonny and Sal that was titled, I Don't Want to Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Fantastic, fantastic title. We've talked about Inside Man on this show before. I can't remember if we mentioned this, but two of our actors, Marcia Jean Kurtz, who plays Miriam, and Lionel Pena, who plays the pizza delivery guy, who is very funny. He's like, I'm an effing star. He is so funny. They actually reprise their roles as Miriam Douglas and the pizza delivery man in Inside Man, which really makes me want to watch that movie again.
Absolutely 100%.
Not that it's really a surprise, but Attica, kind of his screaming cry in this one, has been seen in all sorts of films, TV series. It's everywhere. It's a very popular thing. Last but not least, there is a stage adaptation set to premiere on Broadway in the spring of 2026. And we've got John Bernthal and Eben Moss-Backrack, who are going to be starring as Sonny and Sal. So that will be very interesting to see how it plays on stage.
You know, I got to say, I would see that. I would see that version of it with those guys.
Yeah, yeah. Timeless. It's a timeless story, and it's very fitting to tell a story like that. Right now, the trans character, everything else, very fitting. And in the scope of everything going on with relationships with police and the government, I can see this being something that could play quite well.
Well, and this is an easy adaptation for stage, right? This is a
Yeah.
pretty contained environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How to do it award season?
This one did well for itself. 14 wins with 20 other nominations. Over at the Oscars, it was nominated for Best Picture, but lost to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Same thing for Best Director. Lumet lost to Milos Forman. Film editing, Didi Allen was nominated, but lost to Jaws. Best Writing Original Screenplay, Frank Pearson actually won that one. Pacino was nominated for Best Actor, but lost to Nicholson. And Chris Sarandon was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, but lost to George Burns in The Sunshine Boys. And hold on, I just have to check something very quickly here. Okay, never mind. And, we had just talked about Didi Allen and her editing over on Night Moves. So definitely, a busy editor at this particular point in time. Right. At the Golden Globes, Sarandon was nominated for Best Acting Debut in a Motion Picture, but lost to Brad Dourif in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Pacino again lost to Nicholson. Lumet again lost director to Foreman, and the movie Motion Picture Drama again lost to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This time, same thing with screenplay. Ghazali was nominated for supporting actor as well as Charles Durning, but they both lost to Richard Benjamin in The Sunshine Boys. And then at the LA Film Critics Association, Pacino did win Best Actor, Lumet did win Best Director, and the picture tied, winning with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So.
Okay.
It definitely was up against a lot of strong films.
Does that line up? Does its presence in the award circle line up to its presence in the box office take?
Well, this whole series, as you have called out a number of times, I've been having to adjust information just being less accurate because of its age. For this film, Lumet had between 3.5 and 3.8, somewhere. It was different numbers all over the place. I'm going to go with 3.8, which is $22.4 million in today's dollars. The movie opened either August 29th, 1975 or September 21st, 1975, depending on who you believe. It went on to earn $46.7 million, though it could be $50 million. Then again, that might be just the rounded up version. Still, we'll say $50 million for our purposes, or $294.5 million in today's dollars. That means the film maybe landed with an adjusted profit per finished minute of $2.1 million, which is a fine turnout, no matter the small differences in the figuring.
Maybe. I mean, there were people alive on both August 29th and September 21st of 1975. Could we ask them?
We'd have to find somebody who was, busy and paying attention to theaters. But yes, we could ask somebody. I mean, I was alive at the time, Pete. I just can't ask myself.
I would not have been trusted to give you that data.
Yeah. A little too young.
What a weird black hole of numbers you find yourself in this series. That'll teach you.
That'll learn you. Oh, man.
All right. Well, I'm thrilled that the movie's in our catalog. Kind of admit, when you announced this series, I had to go back and think, Andy's wrong. Surely we've talked about Dog Day After DDA before. Alas, I'm glad we finally have rectified that great wrong.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic film. I'm glad to have revisited it for the purposes of this and find that it's just as strong now and just as relevant in today's climate as it was 50 years ago. So excellent film.
Do you remember where we watched it? Were we in our apartment? Were we in California?
Yeah.
Were we in Colorado? We were in California.
Our apartment. Yeah.
Oh, good old days. All right.
Yep. Good old days. All right, that is it for today's conversation. Next week, we're closing out our Golden Jubilee series, celebrating films from 1975 that are celebrating their 50th anniversaries. And we are going Bollywood. We're looking at Ramesh Sippy's Sholay, which also happens to be a crossover with our next series, The Seven Samurai Family. We'll be right back for our ratings. And now, here we go. All right, everybody, freeze. This is a stick-up. But I'm not here for your money. No, I'm here to tell you about the greatest value in the history of podcasting, the Next Reel Film Podcast. Listen up. For only $5 a month or $55 a year if you're feeling extra savvy, you can become a member. Head to truestory.fm/join and join the crew. Trust me, it's a steal. With your membership, you'll get early access to episodes a whole week before the rest of the world. You'll be able to listen ad-free, no interruptions, just pure, unadulterated film discussion. And that's not all. You'll get access to exclusive bonus content dropped on the last day of every month. It's like a secret stash just for the members. No more ads, more content. What I mean is you'll be getting more for your money. More content, more value, more of what you love. And the best part, this deal isn't just for the next reel. Oh no, it's for the whole family. CinemaScope, the Film Board, Movies We Like, Sitting in the Dark, all the podcasts in your member feed. So what are you waiting for? Head to truestory.fm/join and join the crew. It's the deal of a lifetime. And you don't want to miss it. The next reel! The next reel! The next reel! No more ads! truestory.fm/join!
Okay. I got what you were doing. I fell in love with it at the end. That's amazing.
Oh, so goofy.
Letterboxd, Andy. Letterboxd.com/the next reel. That's where you'll find our HQ page. What are you going to do for this movie?
I mean, this is an easy 5-star and a heart. I just absolutely love this film. It's so strong. It's such an exhilarating watch, and it absolutely holds up. So 5 stars and a heart. Lots of love.
No question at all. Although I'm slightly tempted to lean into the bit and give it 1 star and a heart. I'm not gonna. But just know that's in my head.
It's like that Letterboxd reviewer, 1 star because they didn't use the title in the film. 5 stars if they used the title of the film. This would be a 1-star film.
This would be a 1-star film. That's right. That's amazing. Yeah, 5 stars and a heart. Excellent.
All right. Well, that averages out to 5 stars and a heart, which you can find on our account on Letterboxd at The Next Reel. You can find me there at Soda Creek Film, and you can find Pete there at Pete Wright. So, what did you think about Dog Day Afternoon? We would love to hear your thoughts. Hop into the Show Talk channel over in our Discord community, where we will be talking about the movie this week.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Letterboxd giveth, Andrew.
As Letterboxd always doeth.
Okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to go by stars or length? How do you want to go first?
Let's do short and punchy first, and end on the big long one.
Okay.
I have a 4.5 and a heart by Jay, who says, the robbery is a hit when it's really bringing the bank staff together as a family.
Did we ever find out in the movie who throws the alarm?
I honestly thought it was the smoke. I thought the smoke had somebody
called.
Somebody called, yeah.
But wouldn't that have brought the fire department?
I don't know. It is entirely possible somebody threw it, and we just never are. It's never revealed to us. It could have been Carol Kane's character. I only remember her as Squirrel because he keeps calling her that. But
really shifty.
She was hiding at a deck for quite a while.
So
the
shifty.
Desk. Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got one from Karsten. It's 4.5 stars and a heart. It's hard to look at Dog Day Afternoon as something completely unique because every film that came after Dog Day Afternoon that tried to be Dog Day Afternoon stole some technique from Dog Day Afternoon. The title just rolls off the tongue, clearly. But what immediately stands out for me is the color palette. While maybe not direct with this usage, Dog Day Afternoon is consistently capturing the color white in a way that's perfectly akin to its themes. The buildings, the lights, the clothing, the vehicles, the skies. Maybe that's just the general aesthetic of the 70s, but no film from the decade has ever felt as subtly direct with this palette as this one. But these shades of white are never clean. The shirt is drenched in sweat. The vehicles are scuffed on their sides. The lights always have a certain tint to them. The skies are littered with helicopters. Littered with helicopters is right. There are too many helicopters. I'm saying that as an aside. Littered with helicopters. What I'm saying is Dog Day Afternoon, similar to The American Criminal, is fascinating and bright on its surface. It's, again, direct and deceptively inviting, but that brightness up close has scratches on its surface, a tint that suggests an imperfection, often ignored and manipulated from afar. Basically, it's just a cool movie, and Al Pacino is hot. Well played, Carson. Well played. Totally agree.
Nice. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
Very interesting.
Thanks, Letterboxd.